Good evening, welcome to the home of football, welcome to another Monday night and a fans forum live and exclusive on Arsenal Player. Great to have you with us. Actually, it's just great, isn't it, this Monday after events at Upton Park on Saturday night. There's still a warm glow one way or another because it really was a stirring night's football down the East End. Well, stirring night thanks to us anyway. And thanks in particular to Theo, Walcott and Andy Carroll, both of whose goals just took the roof off the place. Absolutely different class. You may well want to talk about that. You may want to talk about the game that wasn't quite so convincing in midweek against Olympiakos and what you think our chances are of getting out of the group and perhaps more to the point this season getting any further than the round of 16 or the quarter-finals. Let us know. 0207 607 3200 is the number you need. We're here to get you on air to the Arsenal-speaking world. 0207 607 3200. You can email us, fansforum@arsenal.co.uk, or you can tweet. We are at Arsenal, and the hashtag is FansForum. Delighted to say we're joined this evening by Jim Van White from the Press Association. He may be looking a little bit weary because that means he finished 5 articles for 5 different papers in the 5 minutes before we came on air. But that's life for Jim Van White. Also, we've got a bit of added value, as always, on a Monday by way of a competition. I do apologise. I meant to have a copy here with me, but don't, because it's an age thing, you'll understand. But I do certainly have in my possession a signed copy of Nick Hornby's Fever Pitch, signed by the one, the only Nick Hornby. We were flogging them at the film festival last week to raise money for the Bobby Moore Fund. This Monday night, giving you the chance to win one on tonight's Fans Forum. All you've got to do is answer this question. I want to know, in what year was Nick Hornby's Fever Pitch first published? In what year was Nick Hornby's Fever Pitch first published? If you know the answer, get that and your name and address on an email. Send it through to our dedicated email address for competition entries, which is fansforumcompetition@arsenal.co.uk. That's fansforumcompetition@arsenal.co.uk. And good luck with that. I will, of course, be offering you a reminder or two along the way over the course of the next 90 minutes or so. But you know what the meat of this is. Absolutely. Whatever you want to talk about, as long as it's the Arsenal, it'll do for Jim and myself. 0207 607 3200 is the number. Email us, fansforum@arsenal.co.uk. As I say, Jim, 5 articles in 5 minutes. Actually, you were working slowly before the show. But of those 5 articles, how many of those were about Santi Cazorla? And I hope you weren't one of the ones going, oh, yeah, Arsene Wenger says he's the new Glenn Hoddle. You go, what? No, he didn't say that at all, but you weren't going down that path, were you? No, I can trust you not to get involved in that rubbish.
No, that was something that came out in the manager's, when the manager was speaking after the game. But today is a bit more about Olivier Giroud. He spoke a little bit to Arsenal Player and some of the French publications after the match. So just picking up on a few things he had to say about his own form and about the title race.
Like?
Well, he said it's going to be Arsenal can have a very interesting say in the title race, and I think on that performance, you can be confident that Arsenal looking good shape. And about him as well, he says it can be the start of a new adventure now that he's got this monkey off his back that we all kept going on about. Oh, he hasn't scored yet. When's he going to score?
He started all the 3 games.
Yeah. It was great. It was a lovely finish from him though, and
and the build-up too.
Yeah, he worked, but he works very hard, and I think what struck me maybe for the first time, maybe I just hadn't been paying enough attention, but when you're so high up at West Ham and you look down, he's a big lad, isn't he? Up there, and he looks like an old-fashioned English centre forward, if you like, and puts himself about, and
not quite as big as their old-fashioned centre forward, but maybe we'll get on to the subject of that and how you defend against that, or whether you don't actually bother, and just make sure, like we did for the most part, you concentrate on winning the second ball. There was once or twice at what could have been key moments in the game where we did let West Ham have chances. But that's for later. Right now it's for Connor in Chigwell. Connor, welcome to the home of football.
Hi, yep, thanks for that. And well, basically today I just want to talk about the game on Saturday, which I was at Upton Park.
Yeah, it's good atmosphere, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was good atmosphere, yeah. I just thought, because I thought the first half hour was absolutely, I think, West Ham was lucky not to concede a goal.
Yeah.
But after when the Army got that ball, we just run past quite a few of our players and scored that goal. I think we sort of our heads went down quite quickly. You know what I mean? And I think the defence. I think it's been very tight this season. I think it's better than it has been in years since the Steve Bowles come in, and I think that's been great. And I think in the end we deserve to. I think we deserve to get the 3-1, if you know what I mean. Because West Ham had a lot of chances at the end where Kevin Nolan missed a few, and then the header they missed. I thought we was lucky to get away with the 3-1.
Yeah, well, you're absolutely right, Connor. It was a game that Arsenal absolutely deserved to win 3-1, but it was a game that West Ham had their chances.
On another day, it could easily have been ended up, 2-2, couldn't it? I agree with Colin. The first 15 minutes, I thought to myself, well, how have Arsenal not scored here? But in the back of my mind was, in a minute, West Ham are going to go and stick one in, and so it proved. It was a great finish. You could maybe say that the defending should have been a little bit
well, it's a good trick to beat Ramsey, and then Mertesacker took a chance, didn't he? He took a chance on it being a cross.
The only place he could put it was where he put it, which was
well, and Mertesacker kind of stepped away, didn't he? Stepped away expecting the cross, and instead he's gone. I think you've got to say fair play to the fella.
I think we're just going to see it here, isn't it? I mean, that was great,
and you see Mertesacker step away because he thinks he'll pop it to the back post for Carroll, and of course he didn't. It was good skill. Quite what the fella was doing still on the pitch come half time, I don't know, but that's enough. But what you were saying about Giroud earlier, I mean that is a Predators. That is a real kind of centre forwards, and to have played the ball out to Podolski in the first place. Podolski, by the way, although he had a couple of chances and could have scored himself, some of the ball he put into the box, not just that one, but some of the ball he put into the box was absolutely fantastic.
I think he's been a revelation. I remember before you were saying about he works out, it just works for him on the left, and I wasn't really convinced, but the more you see him, it shouldn't work with him on the left, but it does, doesn't it? And we're now going to see this fantastic strike by the Glenn Hoddle-esque Carfola there, knocking one in with his left foot, which is not really his favourite foot, I'm told. So I don't know what he's going to do.
The whole point is, Jim, people who train with him every day can't tell which is his favourite foot.
That's it.
And that's all Arsene Wenger. It's stupid because it doesn't matter, but it is indicative of something, isn't it? Arsene Wenger said, he reminds me of Hoddle because he's so two-footed. And then suddenly that gets turned into,
I think there was a question
he's the new Glenn Hoddle.
Put to him, he's a little bit like Hoddle, because obably Arsenal work.
But he's a little like Hoddle
in the fact
that he's two-footed. Exactly. Not as a player, he's completely different.
Exactly.
Why do they do it? Dan, Connor, thanks very much indeed for the call. Dan's in Exeter. Dan, welcome to the home of football.
Hi guys, how's it going?
Yeah, good.
Just to pick up on your point there, I don't understand why. I don't understand why. Wenger sort of says that he's going to be the new Glenn Hoddle, because that just puts more pressure on the player.
No, but Dan, the point is that he hasn't said that. All he said was that he was like Hoddle in that you could never quite tell which is his stronger foot. All he was saying he shared with Hoddle was that he was two-footed. All the rest is pure invention by headline writers.
Right.
I mean, Arsene Wenger is not... For a start, Carfola's 5'6" and Glenn Hoddle was a good 6 foot. Glenn Hoddle played about 20 yards further back on the... I mean, they're nothing like each other than the fact that they're two-footed. And you just think, why do people... I don't know.
I was just seeing if I've still got the quotes there, what he had to say, but I'm not sure I've still got
Jim
on here.
Jim, I mean, we're not hanging on here for you to scroll through.
You're right. It's kind of like that. Someone will say with Theo Walcott, wasn't it? He said, like Messi, and then suddenly you get, Theo Walcott is the new Messi, and it's not quite.
But anyway, Dan, what you got for us?
I actually wanted to talk about Cazorla. I actually think he had a really good game on Saturday.
He really did.
I think the goal he scored was amazing.
Yeah.
What worries me, and what's probably going to worry me for the rest of the season, is we've got the midfield down to a T, and we've got our strikers are getting better, but two things that I highlighted on Saturday's game is that, one, we're keeping the ball and we're having long periods with the ball, but we don't necessarily seem to be doing much with it. You know, it's great to play keep ball and that, but, you know, 15 minutes into the game, you want to be getting it down the other end and scoring a goal. And also, after the first couple of games of the season, you know, we did well defensively, and then soon as we hit Chelsea, because that's when the problem started, defensively we've just gone downhill, and I don't understand quite what's happened. I mean, it could have been because Mertesacker was out for 2 games, but I don't know. I don't quite know what's happened. I don't know what your thoughts are on it, guys. You know?
No, it's an interesting one. First of all, with the hanging on to possession, I think that, you know, the thing is the only time you can take a breather in a game is when you've got the ball, so that you will see passages of play where it does seem the ball's going absolutely nowhere, and actually it's meant to, and people are just kind of taking a breather. But what about this? You know, I think you kind of give credit to Diame for the goal. I'm not sure that's evidence of kind of us. But West Ham did make chances. Is that something you're just going to have to accept if you're playing against Andy Carroll, who was, you know, looked just so up for the game? Do you accept that there will be chances and you defend? Because for the most part, I thought we defended very well. And certainly we're a lot calmer at the back than we have been in the last couple of games.
We had a chat with Mertesacker after the game, and, you know, we said to him, is it difficult that the manager, you know, kind of is looking at things like, well, I'll play Mertesacker maybe this week and then, you know, sort of Koscielny the next. And he said, look, you know, we've got a good mix of centre-backs here. We all know what's important, but we have, as a group, talked about collectively the need that, you know, defence has been our Achilles heel. We can get the defence sorted out, you know, then that can win us games, because you know what Arsenal can do going forward. What concerns me slightly still is that aerial threat that Arsenal still, even, you know, has improved as things have been this season. We saw against Olympiakos, didn't we? It was a fantastic ball into the box, and, you know, why Arsenal just can't really at the moment seem to deal with that stuff. But I think defensively as well, we maybe make too much of it's just the back four. I mean, defending has to be as a team completely, doesn't it? You know, your winger has to close down.
Although to be fair,
close down their fullback. I think it's improved this season. Yeah. And I thought Mertesacker played very well when he came on, and I think, you know, Koscielny, he's a better player than against Chelsea. I mean, he's one of the most improved players. So, but it's
had a bit more against Olympiakos as well.
And defending against Andy Carroll is not easy, is it?
No, absolutely. I mean, and defending against the kind of cross that I think it was Greco put in for Olympiakos. You know, it's a guy. I don't know. People said, "Oh, you know, Jenkinson should have closed him down more." But Jenkinson found himself in a 2-on-1 there and was trying to kind of, you know, you have to take some kind of gamble. And it's a great ball in. I'm not sure because of course Saturday, because you're absolutely right. It's not just about the back four. Saturday it was all about the back four, because actually we defended around the pitch very well indeed. But, you know, this was Sam Allardyce.
There's that one moment where Mertesacker made a fantastic saving tackle, didn't I? think it was it.
Yeah, on Nolan.
Nolan
Well, Nolan had that moment where he thought, well, I'm a footballer, I can take it down and bring it inside. And he thought, no, mate. But you know, all the problems on Saturday, bar the goal, were just about long ball down the field. So it really was about the back four and winning the battle against Andy Carroll. He'll score plenty of goals against plenty of other teams this season. I don't look at him and think, oh, well, it's just the Arsenal. I think it'd be problems for anybody, to be fair.
There's a point to bring up later that you talked about. It's that for me, it's still that second ball syndrome, which, you know, you seem to be able to see it from the outside, but you just wonder where the other guys do, like, you know, thinking, well, if Carroll does knock this down, where's it going to go? Let's anticipate it. Let's get it. And I think that's maybe where, you know, could do a little bit of work to tighten things.
Yeah. Dan, thanks very much indeed for the call. George is in Kuala Lumpur. George, welcome to the home of football.
Hey, guys.
How are you?
First of all, you know, I'm doing well. You know, first of all, our results for the past 2 games, you know, absolutely fantastic, you know. We made the Chelsea game, you know, seems like it was a long time ago, you know. You know, we scored some very good goals. You know, Giroud, you know, he scored his first goal, and that was a fantastic goal, you know. And the second ball to Walcott for his goal, that was also, you know, absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
But, you know, I have to say something about Theo Walcott, you know. He wants to play in the middle. Yes, but I think that we have too many players up front, you know. We have Giroud, Jorginho can play up front as well.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, if Walcott's going to sign a new contract, I think, you know, he's going to tell Arsene Wenger that he wants to play in the middle. But the thing is, if he signs a contract and if he plays in the middle, who will play for us on the right, you know? Jorginho's not exactly, you know, the best player on the right-hand side. So what do you think that we have to buy someone in January?
No, because I don't think in January Theo Walcott will be playing centre-forward for Arsenal. In fact, I don't think for the foreseeable future Theo will be playing centre-forward for Arsenal. I very much hope he's playing for Arsenal, George, don't get me wrong, because I really like Theo. I like him as a player, I like him as a guy, and, you know, and I think his game is improving all the time. But, you know, just the shape of the team that we play at the moment, he's not playing as the central striker in that shape. You know, you look at that second goal. Look at the second goal and look at Giroud's contribution. He gets the ball with his back to goal inside his own half, moves forward 20 yards with the ball and lets it go for an absolute speed merchant who can finish to score Arsenal's second goal. Now, I'm sorry, for me, Theo is the man to be scoring that goal, not the fella to be doing what Olivier Giroud's contribution to the goal was. So I just don't see all this. You know, it seems like nobody can talk about Theo at the moment without saying, oh, he won't sign a contract unless he can play as a central. I'm just not having it. And to be honest, you know, I look at Theo and I don't think he doesn't strike me as that kind of presumptuous, arrogant lad who's going to try and tell the manager where he should be playing right now, otherwise I'm not going to sign a contract. I just don't see it. You know, the boss has said at times, yes, he could see him as a central striker. Theo's still learning the game. And he's doing a fantastic job while he's learning the game. He's doing a fantastic job from that right side. And, you know, the goal he scored on Saturday came from a run from out to in to get in between McCartney and Winston Reid. And it works for the fella. I just don't understand this going on and on about how this has become such a big issue. Mm. How has it become such a big issue?
I think, I mean, the manager, as you pointed out, Tom, has always said that, you know, that's where, you know, he sees, you know, Theo evolving eventually. But I agree with you. I think he may work as the second of a central striker, but I'm not sure he's the man to lead the line, if you like, in the current system that Arsenal play. But there are opportunities in the cup games, possibly in some European ties, and certainly against, you know, some of the weaker sides in the Premier League. There could be the opportunity to, you know, to give him that. But he's such an impact of where he comes from at the moment. And it's working, and obviously his big asset is his pace, and I guess the thinking is...
Well, people have always said it's his pace. I think he's arguably the best finisher at the club. I think he's, you know...
He is. I mean, there is that argument, isn't it? If he is playing in a more central position on the last man, that, you know, skip past him, he's clean, you know, he's clean through on goal. I think Theo is just a confident player, you know, a confidence player. If he wasn't in a confident mood and happy with himself and within his club, we might not have seen that finish that he produced the other day. But let's not forget, there's a lot of competition for Arsenal, not only midfield, up front, you know, up front as well. So, you know, no matter who these players are, you know, they all will have to take a stint, you know, being rotated. And we saw Jorginho, as well as he played, was virtually, you know, a spectator, wasn't he, a bystander in that game at West Ham, and, you know, didn't really make an impact as much as...
No, well, I mean, in many ways, that seems to me that's more of an issue, really, is that because Podolski's playing left, it means Jorginho, if he's not playing centre-forward, and he is a different kind of centre-forward to Giroud, make no mistake, but, you know, on the right, he doesn't look nearly as comfortable. His game is all about being on the left and cutting in on his right. So
if Sanya gets fit again, because that partnership seemed to work
Oh, with
know,
Theo,
really well,
absolutely,
didn't it? So,
absolutely
yeah.
it did. Thanks very much indeed for the call. Email from Simfui says, hi Tom, email us anytime, fansforum@arsenal.co.uk, gets you through to Jim Van Wyk from the Press Association and myself. Hi Tom, I would just like to get your thoughts on Aaron Ramsey in the final third of the pitch. He didn't look too sure about what he wanted to do with the ball. Not sure if I'm agreeing with that at all. He looked sure enough.
I don't think so.
Looked sure enough last Wednesday night, didn't he?
And I thought, well, yes, I mean, fantastic finish, wasn't it? And then we had all that nonsense about the Wales captaincy. And I thought it was probably one of his best, apart from maybe being beaten by what was a very good bit of skill for the goal. I thought he was an integral part of that side, and I thought it worked really well. I thought he carried the ball, and provided that link up, and allowed Cardola to go.
No, absolutely, and his natural instinct is to be in the final third of the pitch more often than not. And actually, the job he was asked to do against West Ham was not to do that. That's Cazorla's the one who's looking to. I thought he was disciplined, and he was on it. He went for the whole team really. People were. You think about Wednesday night against Olympiakos, and we were so careless with the football. And then on Saturday, we kept it really well. There were one or two, particularly at the start of the second half. There were moments when we were a little bit, and I'm sure that is just hard work. But that kind of taking care of the football, and I thought Aaron Ramsey was absolutely integral to that. But we all watch a different game, don't we? Papis is in Birmingham. Papis, welcome to the home of football.
Good evening, Tom.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Jim. Good to see you.
And sure.
Yeah, this is for you. I'm going to be controversial a little bit, but I'm hoping Ivory Coast fan will forgive me for that. I wish they don't qualify for the African Cup of Nations. And if Gavin is listening, sorry for that, because we need to wrap him in a bubble. The guy is absolutely amazing, and I don't think we can afford to lose him. And if I wish something, just to pull out a Gareth Bale, like don't just fall in sick, and the next day just play for Arsenal.
Yeah.
And the other point is, Tom, I don't know if you're going to agree with me. What if we sign Demba by January?
Do you think that's likely to happen?
The guy is amazing. I mean, because you can see Gabinho cannot play 2 games in a row. He's really sometimes tired. And I would love to see this guy come to the end there, because the guy can score goals, honestly.
Yeah, the guy can score goals. First half of the season, anyway. You wouldn't want to sign him after Christmas and particularly after an African Cup of Nations, funny enough. I mean, I don't think January would at all be the time to go in for Demba Ba or anybody else who's competing at the Cup of Nations, to be perfectly honest, because it is you saw the effect the run to the final had on Gervinho, who was excellent first half of the season last season, and then really kind of fell away physically as much as anything else, because that is it's a very, very intense competition. I still don't think we take it seriously enough in this country, and don't recognise that kind of mentally and physically. That's like going off and competing in a European Championship or a World Cup in the middle of a season, and then being asked to come straight back, literally straight back, and a week later be playing football in the Premier League, and it's. It absolutely takes time to recover. Do you think
conditions sorry?
No, go on.
I was just saying, it's the conditions they face out there, and Arsene Wenger has talked about on a couple of occasions. Especially when they go out there and sometimes the facilities aren't as good as as they used to, so that sort of impacts on them, and obviously the weather as well. So they're sort of coming from maybe being cold in Europe to suddenly going to the heat, and it's an intense, fantastic competition for the continent, and with some great football played there. But it is energy sapping, isn't it? I mean, we hear about our guys when they go off to play in the European Championships or the World Cup, then they need an extended break, didn't they? We saw that with Van Persie and with Fabregas, and just to expect him to say, well, he played in the African Nations Cup final Saturday. Let's have him home and get him back in the team.
It just is happening like that.
But then that's what you accept when you buy these talented players.
Absolutely.
You have to accept that. Look, if the Cup of Nations comes up, these guys. Because they're good.
To be fair, the next one won't be quite as demanding, I don't think, just in terms of all those things that, obviously it'd be demanding in terms of the intensity of the competition, but all those other things you mentioned there, because it's in South Africa in 2013, won't be quite, it'd be kind of autumn, it won't be hot yet, and obviously because of the World Cup, and they'll be playing lots of the games at World Cup stadiums and be able to use World Cup training facilities. Absolutely. But Pavis, thanks very much indeed for the call. Juwon is in Edgware. Juwon, welcome to the home of football.
All right.
Yeah, good. You?
Yeah. I just want. Why do you play better football away from home than from home? Because it's because when we play away, they have the life to do what, and when we're at home, then they have a pressure put on their shoulders. I think the time when they play really well. Like a couple of seasons ago, we had a good away record.
Yeah.
Season as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, two seasons ago, wasn't it? The best away record in the Premier League. It's an interesting one. What do you think, Juwon? Thanks for the call. A bit tricky, the line, but we absolutely got the drift. Do you think Juwon's onto something there? That there is something about, be it the mentality you take to an away game, that you go ready for the fight. You know, go in full knowledge. You know, you turn up Upton Park. You know you're gonna have to battle for anything you get. You're gonna have to battle first and play after. And absolutely, we've done that in away games this season so far. Certainly, it was good on Saturday. The Man City performance was probably our best of the season. And then at home, somehow it's not quite. You know, you think of the Chelsea game where we weren't quite at it.
I think maybe it works in Arsenal's favour because when they're going away, everyone knows about the threat they've got, but also you've got the home team, and obviously the home team want to come out and they want to make a game of it.
Stoke. It was unbelievable. It was unbelievable at the Britannia, wasn't it?
Yeah, they didn't have they had a false 9, 10, 11, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, didn't they?
Absolutely.
But so that maybe sort of works in Arsenal's favour a little bit. That the team have to come out slightly, so maybe Arsenal can work on that. But I think really the key is going to be at home again. For the last couple of seasons, this place here has not produced the results that it really should do for whatever reason. But certainly the manager has never made a big thing about about home and away. But maybe we do more. But I think that's probably the reason that the fact that because teams don't they, when they come they think, oh, I know we're playing the Arsenal, but if we have a bit of a go at them at home, they won't like it and all that kind of thing. And then before you know it, you can get swamped, and in the first 20 minutes you can be 2 or 3 down, which is
and it's interesting as well that you look at. In fact, was it Dan who was saying about that we had a lot of the ball and didn't seem to do much with it. And part of that is taking a breather when you can. You take, if you can just put 10, 20 passes together almost for their own sake, it gives you a breather and fresh to go again. But there was first 4 minutes of the game. West Ham didn't touch the ball other than to whack it away at the last minute, and you're absolutely right. For the first 15 or 20, Arsenal just kind of passed around them, and yet you never. I mean, we made chances, but when it came to both to Giroud's goal and Walcott's goal, you're talking about counter-attacks. It was actually there's that old thing about you can sort of see too much of the ball, you can have too much of the ball, and it's when I was sitting there Saturday thinking. If West Ham come onto us a bit, that's when we'll score. Because one, they're out of shape, and two, they're short of numbers. But,
and then when they're behind, then they feel they have to come on to to try and get back into the game, and then that's where Arsenal can then wrap things up.
Yeah, because you look at the early stages of the game, and you know West Ham would have taken a 0-0 draw all day long. That would have been a victory for West Ham on Saturday. 0207 607 3200 gets you through to the home of football, gets you through to Jim Van Wyk and myself, gets you on air to the Arsenal-speaking world, more important. 0207 607 3200. You can email us, fansforum@arsenal.co.uk, or you can tweet. We are at Arsenal. The hashtag is fansforum. Lawrence is in Surrey. Lawrence, welcome to the home of football.
Oh, hi, how you doing?
Yeah, good. What you got?
Oh, great stuff we saw on Saturday. I think the team is doing really well at the moment. And I've just got some comments to make on Theo Walcott wanting to play centre forward.
Yeah, far away.
Well, I mean, looking at his size, with some comments we've had, some people have been saying, well, he's a bit small to be a centre forward. But if you compare him to Messi, Theo is about 5'9", whereas Messi is 5'7".
Lawrence, can I just suggest one thing? Let's not compare Theo to Messi in any way whatsoever.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, let's not do
but
that.
All I'm trying to say is, as far as I'm concerned, disregard of his size, it doesn't really matter what position he plays. Because I feel with his blistering pace, he has got a lot more to offer either way. And I think it's only a matter of patience for him to become the main man in terms of, strike force and so forth.
Yeah. No, I think it's really, really good point. In fact, Messi is a slightly unfortunate comparison to make. I think a closer comparison this season at the moment, and forgive me, I mean, this is no place to be talking about that mob, but it's interesting that up the road they've been playing Jermaine Defoe on his own up front. And, obviously Defoe isn't as quick as Theo, and he's a lot older than he's 30 now, isn't he, Defoe? I would never in a million years have played him. Certainly, you wouldn't have thought of him as obviously someone who could play on his own up front. And to be fair, he's been doing a half-decent job. They've got a couple of midfielders in, Dembele and Dempsey, who love getting into the box and who love going beyond the, Defoe to get in the area. So I think that's the comparison to make. And there's perhaps an argument that if Defoe can do it, then why not Theo? Because I've looked at, Defoe's game as much as I've had to. And, he's about finishing. Theo's about finishing, plus he's unbelievably fast. I would never have said Defoe's game was about link-up play. And so there is an argument for saying, well, if it works for Defoe, why can't it work for Theo? Well, maybe it will at some point. But right now, if Spurs had Olivier Giroud, they wouldn't be playing Jermaine Defoe on his own up front, I promise you. You want...
Do you think he would work more in a 4-4, a traditional 4-4-2?
Well, he would work in a 4-4-2, but also I want to know where all this... I sort of lost it a bit last week, to be fair, because I just... As the song goes, sign the ting. I just think this is the right club for Theo. We love him. You could see that on Saturday. The celebration between him and the supporters was just fantastic. This is absolutely where... And over the course of his next contract, I think Theo will turn into... I already have no end of respect and admiration for his game. I just think, give it another 2 or 3 years, he is going to be... he could be an Arsenal great, because I think there's still so much to come from him. Now, look, that whole business about, and we've talked about 4-4-2, if you played off a big man, it'd be... Look, if you're playing 3, like we are at the moment, and you've got Olivier Giroud down the middle, every time Lucas Podolski or Kieran Gibbs has the ball, then Theo should be a little man playing off a big man. So where's the problem? No. Absolutely, where is the problem? I can't really get my head round all this kind of, it's about whether he can play centre. Do you know what I mean? When the time's right, he will. Absolutely. I just don't get it. And deep down, I don't think this is coming. I don't know if it's one of those where someone said a little something and it, things get said on message boards or on, wherever it is, and they get... I'm still kind of looking for Theo's quote, like, the argument is about where I play. I don't think he's ever said that. I mean, obviously he just wants the terms, to be right for him, and we can sit here all evening talking about, wage parity and stuff. The thing that always strikes me is, okay, if he says, right, that's it, I don't want to play, Arsenal anymore, I'm going to go somewhere else. With all due respect to him, where is he going to go into a quality? Into a quality side. Well, no, he might go into a quality side. But, would that then be, you talk about this guarantee of centre-forward, could you see him playing centre-forward for Chelsea? Could you see him playing centre-forward for City, or would he be in a more similar role
the role he has at Arsenal, which is his most effective role and also his most effective role for England.
Yeah, well, more to the point is what kind of player could he be in 3 or 4 years' time? Which is when, you know, what kind of player could he be? If he went to another club now, he'll be what he is now forever. Which is fine, do you know what I mean? People would pay money for that. I'm not sure that, you know, the best clubs around would pay big money for Theo right now. But clubs definitely would, because, you know, people who score 12 goals in a season from wide positions and 11 or 12 assists, you know, that's a very, very valuable commodity. What I'm saying is he is still growing as a footballer, and he will be. I just think Theo is going to be. That's why I want him to stay, because I want to see him become the player he will.
Is it maybe we're too impatient then? Because we've seen this. Because we've seen him come as a 16-year-old and, you know, said this is going to be the next big thing with him. Well, when is it going to happen? When is it going to happen? Is that maybe part of it, that he's been sort of caught up in the spiral of it? Maybe in a similar way with Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain as well. People are saying, oh, you know, he's got to deliver now. You know, maybe it's just a case of let's wait and see for a little while.
Maybe. 0207 607 3200 gets you through to the Fans Forum. You can email us fansforum@arsenal.co.uk, which is what Tom has done. Says, hi Tom and Jim. Arsene said lots of complimentary things about Carroll after the West Ham game, even suggesting he could play with Theo. In January, do you think it might cross his mind to put in a bid? I would think Liverpool would let Carroll go for under 20 million. Do you think he's an Arsene type player? What do we think, Jim? Great email, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, the manager talked well about him before the game as well, you know, and he said he's a player that he rates. He's certainly playing with more freedom now, isn't he? You know, these last few games we've seen him for West Ham, more of the type of sort of player he was at Newcastle. The manager's not adverse to having that type of play. Obviously, he worked with Hateley, didn't he, at the time? However, I think he looks for more of a more complete player, and someone who can maybe, you know, work in different positions a bit. You know, sort of like, you know, Giroud, who is a centre forward, but of a different type of mould. But would Andy Carroll fit in at Arsenal? You know, yes, he would certainly give him a different option, wouldn't he? You know, if they wanted to.
Yeah, I think he's a decent.
Yeah, I mean, he's a handful for defences, isn't he? You know, but I mean,
no, but he can play a bit as well.
Yeah, he can, but Arsenal's game plan is that it's based, you know, around, you know, sort of, you know, movement and you know, and pace, and you just wonder maybe whether a player like that would it be a case of fitting him in, you know, to that.
I tell you what, if you've got a view on that, I would love to hear from you. 0207 607 3200.
Would Arsenal fans like to see, you know, to see Carroll as that, you know, as that focal point? I mean, if you take, you know, from Van Persie to Carroll, it's going from a completely different type of player, isn't it?
Yeah, although
one who can still be as effective.
No, absolutely, but Giroud's a completely different kind of player, completely different, you know. Robin Van Persie is a particular kind of player, and so too Giroud, and so too Carroll. I just wonder, would that be £20 million well spent in January? Not strictly sure that Liverpool would let him go to us for 20 million, if indeed they let him go to anybody for 20 million. It might be that over the next 3 or 4 weeks, collectively, that club is thinking, what have we done? But it's an interesting one, particularly with, you know, everybody going so bonkers for Falcao at the moment, you know, the Atletico Madrid striker, who is, you know, is you look at what he brings to a football match, you think, could Andy Carroll not bring what Falcao does? Perhaps not quite so, you know, they're very just big, old-fashioned, quick, selfless centre-forwards with fantastic work ethics. You know, it's an interesting one. If you've got a view, do give us a ring on that. 0207 607 3200 is the number. Joe is in Bristol. Joe, welcome to the home of football.
All right, Tom.
Yeah, good. You?
Yeah, not too bad. Yeah, buzzing about the weekend.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make a small point on squad rotation and Gervinho. I don't know if anyone else picked it up, but I find that Gervinho on common Premier League club grounds, not like City and United where it's perfect pitch, he usually has a shocker. away from home. I love him at home. He's a brilliant player, but his game is all about being slick on the ground, running at players, you know, with a smooth surface. And I just feel he can become a bit of a waste of space away at clubs such as Wigan and like West Ham. He doesn't get the ball down and he can't take players on. And I think it'd be a better chance to use the squad rotation to give Chamberlain or Walcott, who's a bit more physical, who can deal with a bit of a different challenge.
Yeah. It's an interesting one. It would have been interesting because, of course, what Arsene Wenger did, as I say, I think it was our best performance of the season, was up at Manchester City, and there he played Ramsey wide right, you know, for just that little bit of extra solidity when we didn't have the ball. And I think Ramsey does bring you something from out there, you know, because he can run with the ball. He can. I'm wondering if it is to do. I'm not sure it is to do with pitches. I think, Joe, you know, you look at. He played right, and Gervinho, he's played all his career at Arsenal as a left-sided midfield player, obviously a right-footed player, but playing on the left, and has looked comfortable and and has always looked like he worries people. You know, what he does isn't, you know, sometimes you tear your hair out, but he always worries defenders, always commits defenders, draws defenders to him, which makes room for other people. He's had this little run playing down the middle where whatever you think of him as a centre-forward, if you're getting a goal and an assist a game, which is what he's been doing playing as a number 9, then you can't knock it. Wide right, I'm a bit with Joe. It doesn't seem to work for me. I mean, that may be just it needs time, but he didn't have his best game at West Ham on Saturday.
No, he didn't. I mean, I don't think I mentioned him at all in my match report, apart from when he was sub. I agree with you. I mean, he looked very effective there down the left, didn't he? And you know, he used to sometimes switch to the right to kind of, you know, sort of just give the fullback something else to think about. But the way Podolski's playing, there is no other choice down that left. It shouldn't work, but it does.
Although he'll need rotating.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is the thing, you know. It's about the squad rotation, and isn't that the point why, you know, you've got all these games, and you know, with no disrespect to some of the other sides, you know, the fixtures coming up, maybe Arsenal looking to think, well, you know, we should be able to go there and, you know, get a result with, you know, these guys, maybe a bit to be held in reserve. The stuff about the pitch, I'm not so sure. You know, he's been here, you know, long enough now to sort of, you know, get used to that. Yes, maybe on a tighter pitch there might be an issue for space, but yeah, I mean, on the right, I agree with you. I don't think he's quite as effective as he used to be on the left.
You can tweet us any time on the Fans Forum. We are at Arsenal. The hashtag is Fans Forum. Some of your tweets right now from Barry O'Brien at Barry194. Do you think Santos can come in and do the same job as Gibbs? Lucy Martin says our team is capable of winning trophies this season. After all the pressure West Ham put us through, we were outstanding. JSA at Ju1SA says, why do you think we played better football away from home? Actually, Ju1 called us on that, didn't he? At Shades M. Sani says, will Giroud be a regular starter in the current squad? He's so impressive. Well, there's a few there. Look, we'll come back to Giroud because we talked a bit about it. What about, I mean, we saw Gibbs. Any news on Kieran Gibbs and how long he's likely to be out?
He's pulled out of the England squad today. The manager, you know, that's what the manager indicated. But apparently Kieran came out of the tunnel at West Ham and gave an indication, said, yeah, you know, it's just a bit of a strain. I think I'll be all right for England. But obviously they've assessed it, and, you know, given his injury record, you know, you just need to be a bit careful with him, which is a shame because he's played very, very well. And I was actually surprised that he'd become the first choice now ahead of, you know, Santos, who I thought, you know, is a very, very effective player. So obviously, you know, gives them slightly different, isn't it? You know, but, I
mean, Kieran's game is all about getting down the outside, whereas Santos is always looking to come in and get involved, isn't he?
Yeah. So, but I mean, it's fantastic to have two such, you know, quality players, and obviously on the other side, you know, Jenkinson has come on leaps and bounds this season as well. But you know, hopefully it's only a short-term problem by Kieran, and that he should be back after the international break.
Because he has had a great start to the season. He really has had a great start to the season, and you know, homegrown lad, you can't beat it. You can't beat it. We will come back to the subject of Giroud, I promise, because that is an interesting one. How long is it before we look at Olivier Giroud and say that is our first choice centre forward? I don't know. Maybe Saturday was all it took to say, right, that's him, he's ready to go. Because not just his goal, not just his assist. He was outstanding. Every part of his game was outstanding on Saturday, you know, fighting for aerial balls, getting him, you know, joining up play, coming back, defending at set pieces. He's exceptional at as well. I just think he really does look an all-round centre forward, and I think he can only grow. For me, he is our first choice centre forward now. But we'll see. We'll see. Andy's in Cheshunt. Andy, welcome to the home of football.
Hello, Tom. How you doing, Jim? You all right?
Yeah.
Good, good.
Yeah.
Good, mate. Good. Well, yeah, after that depressing week that we've had in regards to losing against them lot,
Yeah.
and Tottenham winning as well, which depressed me even more. I had to go and lie down in the darkened room.
Yeah.
But the only light at that tunnel was the fact that Van Persie lost, so I was quite pleased about and Man United. But more than anything else that I love about this Arsenal side is that their determination to right the wrong. I think that, you know, last season it was a case where if we lost the game, we had a feeling that we weren't sure if they were able to bounce back. But there seems to be this, I don't know, this togetherness, this, you know, we're here, we want to fight for something, and we've found this, a newfound enthusiasm. Do you know what I mean? The new guys have kind of given us this whole enthusiasm, and with the fans, which are the greatest in the world, you know, I think as long as we stay true to those guys and support them as much as we can through the whole season, good and the bad, because we will still have, I think, a few games where it's going to be tough for us, but it is more about the bouncing back. And there hasn't been a single game for me that Arsenal have been outplayed. We've not been embarrassed yet. We've played some top teams. And so I think the future really bodes well for, you know, just for the guys, for their self-belief. You know, you've got Theo talking about that he wants to play for this team.
Yeah.
He wants to become a legend, and I really believe that it's the case. I think you're right to Theo not playing as a central striker in that system. I think if we had a better time to feed him balls, then there could be a different, a different outlook on that score, because the Walcott was pretty sharpish, weren't he? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I'm loving the way Arsenal are playing. I thought the first 10 minutes at West Ham, we were so sweet. The passing, the movement, you know, it was right the way we were holding onto the ball and making West Ham work hard because they're at their own ground. And I think it bodes. I've never had any doubt that we were going to lose that game. Never had any doubt at all. So I'm over the moon. I'm a happy gooner.
I can hear that, Andy, and fair play. I'm loving it, by the way. And I do think you're right. There is something, you know, I think it's not, you know, obviously when you go and sign players for your football club, you want the good players. And, you know, we've gone and signed Cazorla, Giroud and Podolski, all of whom, it's quite clear, are good players. Cazorla, absolutely exceptional footballer. I mean, genuinely exceptional footballer he is. But what we've also said, did you see how hard Cazorla grafted on Saturday? What I mean is that those three players, you know, if we're talking about defending as a team, those three don't need telling. They brought that with them. I think they've all come to this club, not just, you know, as talent. I think the three of them have come to this club at just absolutely the right time in their careers. It's like a huge chance for all three of them. They've all got points to prove. You know, they've all got the next stage to get onto, and that stage is this one. And I just think it's, you know, those three, in a funny sort of way, have brought hard work with them. Because, I mean, Cazorla, you think a fellow with that kind of ability, you know, we've had, no names, no pack drill, but we've had one or two with that kind of ability in recent years who think, well, as long as I've got that ability, I can just get a cigar on for most of the game and just only, you know, I only need to come to life when we've got the ball. Cazorla is just fantastic from that point of view. He worked, defensively, worked as hard as anybody in an Arsenal shirt on Saturday. I just think, Fair play to him. I do think it was his best performance, all-round performance, because he was in the middle of everything we did going forward. But just his all-round game was just fantastic.
I think industrious was the word that I used in my report. I was just so pleased when he scored the goal, because it was a reward for him for that effort that he put in, and the amount of shots that he had which looked like they were going in, and I think there was one block by Carroll on the line, and another one I think smacked Aaron Ramsey on the back. But he just seemed to be everywhere, didn't he? And looking to pick the ball up in front of the defence and bringing forward. And I think that point you made about the type of player that the manager brought in this summer is a sea change, isn't it, from the recent seasons that we've
older,
we've
more
seen.
Experience.
And especially, and that, I guess that starts, sort of with Mertesacker, Arteta, sort of those guys who have been brought in.
They've come.
And it adds the stability. So it's not like you're thinking, well, you've got to bed him in or whatever. You can throw these guys straight in and say, we're going to Stoke this week. This is what it's about. And they know, and they get on with it.
I think that's absolutely right. And you've got obviously, and this is Arsenal after all, you've got that clutch of younger players as well. You've got Kieran Gibbs, you've got Carl Jenkinson, you've got Aaron Ramsey, you've got Theo, who let's remember is still a young man. Alex Oxlade, you've got these people, but you're right, the solidity, the work ethic. Everything that they, and it's people like Cazorla. This is the stage for him to say, "This is how good a player I am." Because the one thing, of course, that's been missing for him is Champions League football. Obviously he's played for Spain at European Championships, at World Cup, but he's never competed regularly in the Champions League. Even that season that Villarreal got to the semi-final and we knocked him out, he was injured for the big games, so he's kind of watching from the sidelines. So I just think they're great players, and we've signed them at great times in their careers. You can email us anytime, fansforum@arsenal.co.uk. Got a reminder about the competition coming up, but first let's have an email from Damien, who says, what do you guys think about Sanya coming back? Do you drop Jenkinson or keep him in?
Oh, that's a tough one. I think he's due to play in the under-21s now. I think the game's going on at the moment.
Him and Jack,
So when he's fit, it is an interesting dilemma, isn't it? Because you had Jenkinson, who was bought from Charlton, I think, when they were still in League One. I think.
He'd only played 5 or 6 games. He basically was bought out non-league. He was playing for Hayes.
So and he's come on so much that he was in the thoughts of Roy Hodgson. So that shows, sort of the type of player he has. I think it could even be a position where Arsenal looks at the opposition that you play, and also it's going to be key with who is going to be on that right-hand side, isn't it? Because Walcott and Sanya works so well, I think maybe more than Jenkinson does. But Jenkinson also as well gets forward, and he's a good crosser of good crosser of the ball as well. But obviously with Sanya, you've got the issue about, with his contract coming up and stuff as well. So, whether that will have any impact on it. I don't know. But at the moment, I mean, if it ain't broke, don't try and change things. Both, with Gibbs and Jenkinson, you've got 2, young guys in there, hungry, producing the goods every week. Obviously, if their standards drop, then you've got to maybe start having a look and saying, well, Sanya can come back. But I can't really remember that many bad games that Sanya's had for Arsenal. I could probably count them.
Sanya. For me, if he's fit, he plays. For me, if he's fit, he plays. You're talking about the best right back in the Premier League. But and that's absolutely no reflection on Carl Jenkinson, who's going to be. I think he's going to be absolutely legendary.
It's a good choice to have. It's a good choice.
No, absolutely. Chris is in Milton Keynes. Chris, welcome to the home of football. Good to have you with us.
Hi Tom, how are you guys doing?
Yeah, I've completely forgotten the competition, but I will come back to it because I want to hear from you first, Chris.
Okay. Right, now, I want to talk about the Walcott situation. I think he did brilliant on Saturday, okay, and, I mean, if he's listening, okay, I'd advise him to be patient because, I mean, I watched El Clasico yesterday. 2 of the top goal scorers don't even play as the strikers, okay, they play on the wings.
Well, Messi kind of plays that weird false 9, but you're right. Cristiano Ronaldo does not play centre-forward for Real Madrid.
He was brilliant. He scored 2 goals. Messi also scored 2 goals. And, hey, some of these players just need to be careful, because, biggest game of the Spanish season yesterday, Fabregas left us, got sacked 60 minutes, and looked unhappy. after the team. Wenger knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
Walcott, I just concentrate on the right position.
Yeah.
Make it my position. He will get goals. He's quick.
Yeah.
He will get goals. But he wants to play as a striker. Okay, so he doesn't sign. He goes elsewhere. Fair enough, he'll get the chance, but trust me, he'll probably never reach his potential.
Yeah.
You know?
No, Chris, I think you make absolutely. It's a brilliant point about Ronaldo, by the way. Good point about Messi as well, but we're not making that comparison, I have to say, because Messi does play down the middle, kind of. He plays wherever he wants to. He's Barcelona's get out of jail card, isn't he? But that point about Ronaldo, and this is why, Chris, I can't quite get my head round how big an issue this has become, apparently, about where Theo plays, because whatever else. Theo is no fool. He is no fool. And Theo watches football. He's a football fan. He's got good people around him, good people I'm sure he's talking to. And they are not saying, and I cannot believe that Theo's saying to himself, well, I like it, Arsenal, but unless I'm playing centre forward, I want to go somewhere else. I cannot believe that. I just can't believe that that's the issue. And you're absolutely right. What's Ronaldo's record now? 159 goals in 155 games, playing from wide on the left.
Well, there was another number 14 for Arsenal who was very, very effective when outside. And
but he effectively was our centre forward as well. But it was a very different physique.
But I mean, it's that. But someone cutting in from either flank can be just as dangerous as someone charging straight down the middle, can't they? And at the moment, Theo. He does exactly what it says on the tin. He does what it needs to done, from that.
And he plays. He scores.
Yeah.
Got 12 goals last season. He's well on his way. Absolutely.
Yeah. And all this about you can bet with some of those defenders and they see Walcott coming on, they're not too happy, are they? They think, what's this guy going to do to me now? He's going to turn me inside out. And that's what he does. And that's what he does. That's what he does well.
Absolutely. Thanks for the call. Prince is in Ilford. Prince, welcome to the home of football.
Thanks, Tom. I just wanted to talk about Diaby.
Yes.
He's such a fantastic player for Arsenal, and I think the Chelsea game just illustrated how important he is to us.
Yeah.
And also we missed him when we considered the first goal against West Ham.
Mm-hmm.
The question that I wanted to raise was, do you think with the way that he's injury prone, it's probably or perhaps time for him to consider whether he should retire from international football? And focus on getting back to full fitness and getting a good run of games in a season. And then you can think about maybe playing for Arsenal and the French national team.
Yeah. Prince, not the best line in the world, but it's a really good call you've made on it, I have to say, particularly because there was this little spat, wasn't there, between Arsene Wenger and Didier Deschamps about whether, as an Arsenal supporter, you're going, let Diaby just play half the season. For us. Leave him alone. But Laurent Blanc, the previous French manager, basically said, look, if he's fit, he's the first name on my team sheet, Diaby. He is potentially as key, if not more so, to France than he is to Arsenal. So you can understand Didier Deschamps, if he's available, he's going to pick him. I don't think, a lad his age has got no business retiring from international football, and I shouldn't have thought it would even cross his mind. He's missed a lot of football, and I would guess that he wants to play as much of it as he can, whether that's in an Arsenal shirt or in a France shirt. But you do feel like just give him a couple of months playing for Arsenal and just let him get back into. Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure. I mean, you can tell how upset Arsene was to lose him, particularly because he's fantastic up at Manchester City, fantastic at Anfield, and you can understand why Arsene was so upset to lose him, and you can understand him kind of looking around for someone to blame, and the French national team would do. Do you know what I mean? Didier Deschamps bit sort of thing, but you do worry, don't you, about him putting a run of games together. You just thought this season he had pre-season, he was all right. He started the season, he's all right, and then it's another one of these.
Well, I just think it's just got to be managed more sensibly. I think that Arsenal's frustration was, despite the advice of the Arsenal medical team, who said, look, you know, can you kind of take it a little bit, you know, easy, because, you know, this injury that he's got is, you know, we just need to monitor it a bit more. And I think that's what he felt, that, you know, France could have utilised him differently. I suppose if we look at it closer to home, it's the same way we're going to be about Andy Carroll, and even closer here, the same way we're going to be about Jack Wilshere, because as soon as he's back in any sort of shape for Arsenal, everyone's going to be saying, well, you know, when's he going to be getting in the England squad? I mean, had his rehabilitation been maybe a few weeks ahead, he could well have been played against, you know, thrown straight in against San Marino. So it is difficult with Diaby, because when he's fit and firing on all cylinders, he's some player, isn't he?
Oh, that's what I mean. You look at the performance at Anfield, the performance at the City of Manchester Stadium, you go, well, the fella plays.
He's
you know,
the player that Arsene Wenger always said he would be, and everyone else is just going, well, he's no good.
Nobody said he's no good. They just said he's injury prone.
Yeah, to injury prone. But you see what you can get from him when he's the best. But you speak to some of the French journalists, and they say, look, we need him. We need him in the French side.
Yeah.
So it's just that delicate balancing act, which, you know, maybe France got wrong last time.
Well, maybe we've got it wrong. I don't know.
But maybe you could say, well, there are games again. You know, are there games where, you know, Diaby could, you know, be given a bit of a rest, and, you know, it's not as if you're short of options in midfield.
Yeah. Yeah, that's if a rest is actually what he needs. It may be something else altogether. But Ash, we're going to come to you in just a moment. Just want to remind you of the competition. We've got a signed copy of Nick Hornby's Fever Pitch to be won this evening on the Fans Forum, signed by Nick Hornby. All you've got to do to be in with the chance of winning it is tell me the answer to this question. In what year was Fever Pitch first published? In what year was Fever Pitch first published? If you know the answer, get it on an email with your name and your address, and send it to our dedicated email address for competition entries. That is fansforumcompetition@arsenal.co.uk. Ash, thank you very much for your patience. You're welcome.
Yeah, hi Tom. Hi. Tim. I hope you guys got the bus into work today.
Say again.
I hope you guys got the bus into work today.
Podolski, is this when he got the bus?
Yeah.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, and everyone was up in arms saying, "Oh my God, you know, Premier League player gets the bus."
Shocking, isn't it?
He went out to get something from Tesco's, I think.
Boy, got the bus to Tesco's.
Yeah, he did, yeah.
Hey, tell you what, Lucas Podolski, man of the people.
Yeah, my point, a couple of points regarding our tactics. Obviously, we're holding the ball really, really well, but I think we're holding it in the right areas. We're not, you know, when it's time to shoot, we're actually shooting as opposed to trying to play it through, and I think that's a great tactical change that I can see. And the other thing, from a negative point of view, is our corners. We had 16 corners against West Ham. Didn't make one of them count. I was wondering what your thoughts on that is, Tom.
Yeah, corners, eh? Do you know, I'm struggling to remember since the kind of halcyon days of you know, Bold flicking them on for Adams. I've never been convinced that corners were something that particularly need concern us, Ash. Do you know what I mean? There is something, I don't know. Do you get the feeling that we don't do much work on them?
That's what I was trying to. The point is, tactically, I'm not sure what we do, because, you know, that's a cross into the box.
Yeah. And
we mentioned that, you know, Carroll, you know, is someone that Wenger rates, but we've also got a guy in Italy, Bentner, who's fairly good as well. So I'm just saying, tactically, I'm just thinking we don't do enough work on corners.
Well, it's funny because as well, because if you look, people always say, oh, Arsenal's Achilles heel. You know, to be fair, it's every football team's Achilles heel. They say it's a particular Achilles heel of Arsenal's. Actually, the vast majority of goals that people score against but not the vast majority, but you understand what I'm saying. Most people are vulnerable to set pieces. That's why free kicks are dangerous. But you do think, I guarantee you, if we worked out ways to make our corners more effective, I guarantee you, if we worked out how to make them more effective when we had them, we'd be better at defending them.
Yeah,
I guarantee you the two things would go together.
Hand in hand, yeah, absolutely. And Mertesacker, when he was in their final third, he was great as well.
Yeah.
He had a great game.
He did have a good game, didn't he? What about the tackle on Nolan, second half?
Yeah, but Nolan didn't have his shooting boots. He had two great chances.
I know.
And I didn't feel Dad have a shocker as well. So fingers crossed we're going in the right direction. We're shooting when we should be shooting. But our defensive play against Olympiakos and at times at West Ham, two great results, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
I think we've got quite a few things to work on still.
No, there's plenty to work on. You're absolutely right, there's plenty to work on, although I did think that the performance defensively and every other way was very different on Saturday to the one. I just thought against Olympiakos, I just thought we looked... You know, we didn't work hard enough. We didn't... there was such carelessness with the ball. People giving the ball away. You know, Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain was guilty of it. First half, certainly, who played the kind of defensive midfield position on Wednesday night against Coquelin, was giving the ball away. For, you know, obviously Arteta can't. He's been genetically bred not to be able to give the ball away. But everybody, even he knocked it in the touch a couple of times. We were just careless, whereas I thought we did take care with the ball and did fight when we didn't have it on Saturday. And, you know, yeah, there were chances, but teams are always going to make chances, particularly if they've got Andy Carroll playing up top for them. Thanks very much indeed for the call. Ahmed is in Colindale. Ahmed, welcome to the home of football.
Hi, thanks. How are you like today?
Yeah, good, good.
I just quickly want to talk about Theo Walcott again. Everyone keeps bringing this up, but I absolutely agree with you. I think he will sign a contract, but I think he should stick to the wing for now because, number one, he hasn't played that many games. He's been on the right wing all the times he has played, and he's one goal behind Gervinho, our second top scorer.
Yeah.
And also, if Walcott wants to play striker, he should just look across to the left wing, youngest ever European 100 caps, to Lucas Podolski, who's a centre forward, but he's on the left wing.
Yeah, and you're talking about a player on that left wing who scores a goal every 2 games at international level. You know,
he's got a few assists as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're not talking just 100 caps, you're talking 50 goals, and that's for a top international side. And I see absolutely no reason why Theo can't score 20 goals. From playing where he is. I see absolutely no reason. And weigh in with as many assists as well. Because that's the other, you know, obviously Podolski is, you know, he didn't score on Saturday, but his cross for Giroud was absolutely fantastic. And there were 3 or 4 of them over the course of the game, to be fair. I just, you know, it's not our business to go, Theo, you do what you're told, but sign the thing.
I mean, does it maybe come down to that point you made? Then, if you're playing with those front 3, shouldn't they just be interchangeable anyway?
Well, yeah, and
you know,
obviously
one's going down one wing, and then Theo, tucks in, and then he's down the middle, and Giroud can. I mean, Giroud went and picked the ball up and knocked it out, wide, and
absolutely.
So there is that scope in that formation. It doesn't have to be. Hard and fast, does it? And then it keeps the defence on their toes because they don't know where the next attack's going to come from.
Yeah. Ahmed, thanks very much indeed for the call. 0207 607 3200 gets you through to the home of football, gets you on air to the Arsenal speaking world. Jim Van Wyk from the Press Association and myself are with you for a little while longer. You will, if you do call just now, I think I'm right in saying you will get through. We'll put you on air just as soon as you do. 0207 607 3200 is the number. You can email fansforum@arsenal.co.uk. Email from Errol, who says, gents, I have to say, whilst I agree completely with how good our new signings are, Arteta has been magnificent for me at his new deeper role, and he's one of the first names on my team sheet. How important do you think he is to the team? How important? How important, Jim?
I think at the moment, most important. I think at the moment in this system, he's integral, isn't he? He seems to be the one through which the link up in that old, if you like, in the cess role, picking the ball up from the defence and linking up, with the midfield, and him being so regimented in his role, that allows then the other players around him to play with such freedom and such movement, and it just worked so well the other day with Ramsey and with Cardona. Yeah. I think it's because he does what he does. He's almost like the silent man of the team, isn't there? Quiet man, goes about, does his, does the business that he needs to. But
just tell me this: last season, we signed him. As soon as he came into the team, he wasn't out of the team. for obvious reasons. Absolutely key. Arguably the single most important player we've got at the moment. Towards the end of the season, for whatever reason, he ended up getting injured. And in his absence, we absolutely staggered to the finishing line. West Brom away was the only game we won last season without Arteta in the team. You know, we're talking about rotation and nobody's mentioned him. And I just wonder whether you're going to have to, or is he the kind of player who will be comfortable playing 60? Because it's not as if he just stands. It's not as if he just stands there and does his job. The fella's fantastic athlete as well, and you just think, is he the one almost ahead of everybody else? You've got to think. I mean, I wouldn't fancy telling him he was being left out because the fella's there to play football. You just, you know, I wouldn't want to say, oh well, we're rotating you this week, Mikel, because I don't think. But is he somebody we absolutely have to think about giving regular breaks to over the course of the season if he is going to get us right through till May?
I would think so, yes, Tom. I mean, again, it comes back to sensible management of the players depending on the opposition that you know that you're going through. I mean, say let's take the next game, you know, coming up. You know, with no disrespect to Norwich, but
Norwich.
Well, you know,
couldn't possibly comment.
No, you know, but I mean, you know, you know, okay, we are a side which Arsenal should have no problem in, you know, which Arsenal should have no problem in beating. So, if you're thinking, well, you know, the guys are a bit, you know, a bit flat, maybe, you know, Arteta won't, you know, be involved much over the international break.
That's
so maybe
silver lining for us.
Yeah, so maybe that
the international break.
So maybe these give him the extra time for rest. But you know, say for example, you've had a hard run of games, and you know you've got someone at home. I don't know, Queen's Park Rangers, Reading. You know, maybe the manager thinks, look, you know, we should be able to get past them without these guys, maybe keep them in reserve if we need to, because the other clubs do it. Manchester United will do it, Chelsea will do it, Manchester City certainly do it.
Yeah.
You know, and that would then keep him, you know, fresh for, you know, for going.
Here's the point, though. He does get those natural breaks when everybody else goes off on international.
Yeah, I mean, that might,
you know, he's got 2 weeks without
a
game now, hasn't he?
You know, that could be, you know, could be beneficial for him. Let him have a bit of, you know, a bit of time off, time away, isn't it? But
absolutely.
Sometimes maybe the guys we don't talk about so much are the guys, you know, who are there because you know they're getting on with the job.
0207 607 3200 is the number you need. No one's taken that Andy Carroll bait. Could you imagine him in an Arsenal shirt on the back of Saturday's performance, but on the back of what you've seen of him as a player generally? Could he work in an Arsenal shirt? 0207 607 3200 is the number. You can email us, fansforum@arsenal.co.uk, or you can tweet. We are at Arsenal. The hashtag is fansforum. Let's have some of your tweets. At Conrad1993. Oh, what a flying vintage that was. Well, actually, it wasn't exactly. It was a very successful vintage. Took some watching some of that season, though, didn't it? Carl Jenkinson is the best thing since sliced bread. At Somimis13 says an outside chance to win the title is there for the taking. In Arsenal, we trust. Go Gooners. At Shane Gooner says, for the first time in a long time, we have genuine competition or adequate replacements for places in the team. At Alan Cornwall says, Cothola, huge asset. Jenkinson, most improved player, including his pace. Mind you, West Ham missed chances. Defence, still not solid. At Moose00 says, on Saturday we saw why Theo deserves a chance through the centre. As for Cothola, what class. My word, he's a gem. Not much to argue with there. He has been fantastic, Jenkinson. He has been one of the real pluses this season. Now, you just, he wants to play for Arsenal. And you thought, oh, well, that'll take him away. Desire will take him away. And now suddenly he's looking, he's really looking a player.
Yeah, he is. I mean, I'm really stunned with his development and how, you know, well he came on. I mean, you know, he's a young guy, isn't he? And most of those guys you think would be sort of eased into the team in the Capital One Cup and, you know, maybe given a bit of experience elsewhere. But, you know, Arsenal obviously sees something in him. You know, we always thought he was more than an adequate backup for Sanya, and you know, and he's proved that, hasn't he?
Yeah.
You know, and his game is coming on, and you know, coming on and on, and obviously, you know, his connection with the club is, you know, is there.
And he's got to the point where you know, we've got the best right back in the Premier League, or the fella who has been for the last 3 or 4 years. And you're not thinking, oh dear, well, can't wait to get Sanya back. I mean, I'm looking forward to getting Bakary Sanya back, because I think because Carl Jenkinson's been playing so well, you forget just what a fantastic player Sanya is and has been for this club, and I do think when he's fit he will come back into the team. But fair play to Carl Jenkinson, he has been different class. Scott is in Jamaica. Scott, welcome to the home of football.
Hello, you hearing me?
Yeah, hearing you loud and clear.
Yeah, last week I called, we had trouble with the line.
That's right, this is sounding much, much better, Scott. It's great to have you with us.
Yes, thank you. First and foremost, the team that plays Saturday, that team didn't turn up not for 1 second against Chelsea, and that was very disappointing to me. Cazorla was very inspirational on the ball against at Upton Park on Saturday. Arteta was always a conductor, and it's another issue with Arteta. He's playing at an exceptionally high level, and you're telling me, even at this level, he's not worthy to be called up to that Spanish team, to that Spanish national team, and so forth. One of the other things is that our defense, I don't know if it's with Mertesacker, but it seemed much solid with Mertesacker in there, right? And for one, I'm thinking Cascione he has significantly improved, but with him in the defense, something always seems to get very shaky out there. I don't know if it's his partnership with Vermaelen or what, but Mertesacker around there, he did exceptional with Andy Carroll. He didn't win all the first ball, but the defense was in a position where they ensured that they won all the second balls, and so forth and so forth.
No, it's really true what you say, because Koscielny, let's remember, was our best defender last season, sort of head and shoulders, to be perfectly honest. He's fantastic. But, you know, right at the start of that, Scott, you said the team that played on Saturday wasn't the team that played against Chelsea. And I knew exactly what you meant. But why was that, Scott? Was that because of what Chelsea did? Was that our own mental attitude? Was it because we were playing at home rather than playing away? Why was that?
But, Tom, look at it. Chelsea didn't do anything significant in the game. They didn't do Hazard, Mata, whatever you want to call it.
Didn't make a chance in open play. No, didn't make a chance in open play, you're right.
They didn't do anything significant. We literally sit back and play like we were afraid. We didn't know what to do, right? It's like Arsene Wenger's philosophy was thrown out the door and everybody was playing with their handbrakes on. So they didn't play anything for us to be afraid of. We literally gave up the game, right? We literally gave up 2 soft goals and give them the game, right? And then people is going to sit around and go on like they want to question Arsenal credentials this season, right? What I'm saying, though, is that my significant point is about Podolski and Giroud. Why is when Giroud is not on the field, Podolski is not in that central role, right? I know that he likes to play on the left, but why isn't he in that central role when Giroud is not on the pitch?
Yeah.
And so forth.
Yeah, well, because I just think, Scott, I think there are reasons. The one game that he started centrally was the first game of the season against Sunderland, and he didn't look comfortable. You know, I think he is I don't think he's a player that kind of. I don't think he's a link-up player in the same way. Team player, absolutely, but I'm not sure that he's a link-up player in the way Giroud is, that he doesn't want to play half the game of his back to goal. He doesn't want to be necessarily fighting centre-halves. I think that position wide on the left, which is where he's played his most successful football, not just for Arsenal, throughout his career, is right for him. You know, and people make the comparison between him and Theo, and I look at Theo and I think a lot of what's true about Podolski and what suits his game is also true about Theo. It's absolutely take your point, and certainly no one would have expected to see Gervinho being the choice for, you know, you imagine, well, if Scott's quite right, you'd imagine if Giroud isn't playing, then your first choice for down the middle would be Podolski, but not at all.
I remember a couple of months when I was on here before, and you were saying, look, you know, he plays in that position for Germany. He's comfortable with it for Germany. It works for him there. So why are we trying to fit him into another position. And since he's gone out there, I don't know why it works. It doesn't look like he looks like, you know, big guy playing down the middle, but it works on the left. It absolutely, you know, absolutely. He's not an out chalk dust on your boots winger, is he? No. You know, he'll get the ball, take the man, you know, knock it inside, but it just absolutely works there. So I think, you know, when he's comfortable in that position, you know, play him there. Could you put him in the middle? I don't know. He just.
Well, there probably are games where you could, and you know, maybe he will play there over the course of the season.
But you're right. It didn't work, and that's what the manager said after that game. You know, he said it didn't click for us, and we've got to try and find a way of doing it. And maybe said, well, let's throw Jovino. I mean, who would have thought that? Said, well, you know, that's not going to work down the middle, but that did, you know, has done as well for a few things. So yeah, the options are there, which, you know, maybe previously didn't have because it was so reliant on the one man, you know,
no, absolutely,
on the only man who could play down the middle.
Yeah. Scott, really good call. I'm very glad we got you back on a decent line this week. Really good to hear from you. Don't be a stranger, mate. Felix is in Bushy. Felix, welcome to the home of football.
Oh, good evening.
Good evening.
You're doing a very good job. Just to add to what's been going on, been discussed, I think Theo has been a good player for us, but this debate about centre-half, I don't know, striker, I don't think is the best thing for him anyway. The best thing he can do, like the manager said, I will give you the chance when the time comes. Continue what you're doing, like you said. I accept everything you guys are saying about him. He's a good player. Continue playing in the same position. We love you. We want you to stay, sign the contract. And also, if I was maybe get another centre forward, like you mentioned, Falcao. Falcao is brilliant. If we have the money, let's go for him.
Yeah.
There's no problem why we cannot go for him. Let's try.
Yeah, I mean, I've
players there as well that, you know, entice him to come to Arsenal.
Yeah, I've got to say, as far as Falcao's concerned, you know, Atletico Madrid went second in La Liga last night. They beat Malaga 2-1, didn't they? And you know, Falcao scored again, and you know, they're involved in the Europa League, which would mean that if anybody does sign him in January, he wouldn't be able to play in the Champions League anyway. This absolutely by a million miles is Atletico's best chance of getting into the Champions League for some time, and that, you know, that on its own will earn them as much as they could earn from selling Falcao. So unless, you know, unless someone comes in with ridiculous money, I don't think Falcao's going to leave Atletico Madrid in January anyway. I think he looks an honest lad as well. I think he's kind of committed to the cause. Obviously, Diego Simeone is not a fellow you'd want to turn around and say, oh, by the way, I'm leaving just when we're having a proper go this year. I just think it would take ridiculous money to get him out of Madrid this year, and it would be money that you couldn't spend. You couldn't use him in the Champions League anyway for the rest of the season. Come next summer, that's why I thought Andy Carroll was quite an interesting shout, because you know the situation with Falcao. If Chelsea decide to sign him, or Manchester City decide to sign him, for reasons of bottomless pockets, and almost as important, for reasons of complete and utter disregard for anything remotely resembling financial fair play or whatever that was supposed to be back in the day, they will go and sign him. They will pay whatever transfer fee gets him, and you know, people are talking about 35 million. I don't think 35 million will get him out of there next summer. You know, if Chelsea are prepared to pay 50 million for Fernando Torres, someone will be needing to pay that kind of money for Falcao as well, and I don't think it'll be till next summer anyway. Andy Carroll? Brendan Rodgers sticks to his guns. You might nick him out of Liverpool come January for 20. And for half the wages, and he wouldn't be cup-tied for Europe. But it's only a thought. Nobody's bit. Thanks very much indeed for the call. Dave's in Basildon. Dave, welcome to the home of football. Dave, are you there? Earth to Dave.
Sorry?
Dave, gotcha. What you got for us?
Great.
Yeah,
how are you,
through.
Tom and Jim?
Good evening to you.
Oh, good, good. If my voice sounds a bit dodgy, it's because I've been to the dentist, so...
oh, OK, I thought you were going to...
I want to take you up on your thing with Andy Carroll.
Oh, OK, good, yeah.
Yeah? What I think is, knowing the mind of our great manager, perhaps he sees something different in Andy Carroll. Perhaps he will sign him. Because if you looked at the game against West Ham, every time we had a corner, every time we had a free kick, he was their best defender.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
He headed every ball out, he blocked shots. He was a great defender.
Yeah.
In fact, he did more defending than he did attacking.
Yeah.
I don't know what your thoughts on it are.
Do you know, you're absolutely right, Dave. He was West Ham's best defender as well as being their best attacker, to be fair. And I'm only kind of raising the question. I don't know how you feel, Jim, but I just, you know, our manager is better than anybody, at looking at a player and looking at what he could be. Not just at what he is, but looking at what he could be. And I just, you know, I looked at Andy Carroll on Saturday and I thought, what could he be? If he could work for the manager who is the single best developer of talent on earth, that's the manager we've got. Whatever else you want to say about him, and, you know, people can criticise Arsene, they can, you know, there is no one to touch him. For developing talent, there is no one to touch him. If he looked at Andy Carroll and went, you know, he's this, and I think he could be, would it be a gamble worth taking?
Well, I think if you look at the other backup strikers Arsenal have got, well, Bentner is still technically an Arsenal player, you know, out of sight, out of mind. We haven't seen eye and hair of, you know, Shamak, have we? Park. And Park as well. So there's three there, and I think I would probably take Andy Carroll certainly above all of those three, wouldn't you? Mm-hmm. And you know, it gives a different option. And like you said, you know, he's young enough to still be able to, you know, have an influence on him. And you know, he certainly would give Arsenal a different option, wouldn't he? But he could also, as you say, there's no reason to suggest he couldn't adapt to play into the position. He's not an unmobile, you know, player, is he? And he's, you know, he's done it at the highest level. And somewhat ironically, against, you know, Stoke, when it came to it, you know, when they were looking for a goal, what were they doing? They were knocking balls into the box, and it was just flying above Suarez, wasn't it? Because they had nobody there. So, you know, he provides that other option. And you know, as Dave said, he was great from, you know,
Dave,
great from defending.
Are you still there, Dave?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, all right, say, just for argument's sake, if Liverpool were prepared to take 20 million for Andy Carroll, would you think that was 20 million of Arsenal's money well spent?
It was a light-hearted comment, but yeah, because knowing what Arsene Wenger can do with players,
yeah.
I mean, even if he was a central midfielder, playing the way Vieira used to do, right in front of the back four.
Yeah, I can't see he'll ever be that. I think he will be a centre forward for the rest of his life. But
he's not that old, is he?
No, not at all. Not at all. No, I mean, that's what I mean. I think he's got... There's development to be done there. Look, Arsene Wenger the chances are he's looked at him and gone, yeah, well, he does what he does, but he's not for me. Fine. But if Arsene Wenger looked at Andy Carroll and went, actually, he's this now, but he could be, and wanted to take a punt, I'd trust him. I'd trust him ahead of anybody else on that score. Dave, thanks very much indeed for the call. Great to speak to you. And that's about it, actually, on time. It has absolutely flown by tonight. Thanks very much indeed for all your calls, your emails, your tweets. We do have a competition winner. Thanks for all the right answers that came through. It wasn't the hardest in the world, particularly because everybody's been going around saying it's the 20th anniversary since the publication of Fever Pitch. There we are. But the winner of that signed copy of Nick Hornby's Fever Pitch is Ryan O'Donnell, who's in Northern Ireland. He knew that the answer was that Fever Pitch was published in 1993. There's a bit happened to football in between times, isn't there? As I say, thanks very much indeed for your calls, for your emails, and for your tweets. We've got that strange feeling after. Just think we were fantastic up at Anfield. International break. Fantastic time of it at Upton Park. International break. 2 weeks till we get to see the Arsenal in action again. Mind you, you don't have to wait 2 weeks to talk about the Arsenal. We will be back, same time next Monday. Jim, great to have you with us, mate. Really appreciate your company.
Thank you.
And we will be talking about Norwich City versus Arsenal at Carrow Road. That'll be one to look forward to. Jim, I know, will be looking forward to it in particular. Seriously, great to have you with us tonight. Really enjoyed the evening. Hope you will join us again. 7:30 next Monday. In fact, 7:30 every Monday night for the 90 minutes after the 90 minutes. Good Saturday, wasn't it? Up the Arsenal.